What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Let's get started. First up, would hazardous environmental objects such as barrels work in Overwatch? First thing I thought about was some of those old school FPS, the single player ones, where you would hit the barrel and then it would destroy everything in the area, do lots of damage. I don't think that sort of stuff would work in Overwatch. However, they could add more stuff into the map itself that deals damage. We already have a little bit of things with, obviously you can drop off of platforms, or there are the cars in the Oasis map and stuff like that. They could have other things that deal smaller amounts of damage. It doesn't need to be like a one hit like the cars and dropping off and stuff like that. But they could have stuff that will, like, imagine what they have with Junkertown, right? With the last area, and you have that big gear platform thingy that's kind of spinning around. Imagine that one of those had, like, spikes on it or something, right? So you could get up there, but you would take a little bit of damage. Or as things move around, you know, different things could spin around in different parts of maps and whatnot, and they could just deal damage if you happen to be there. Now, it would be important that it is on a regular timed event, as opposed to something that just, like, randomly happens. You don't want to be over in an area and suddenly, you know, something just happens and your character loses half of your health. You don't want that. But they could work it in such a way where they could do more stuff with the environmental objects. I think that definitely could work. I want to take a brief moment to give a thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Audible. You can get a free audiobook to keep forever and support the channel by using the link down below. If you haven't tried audiobooks yet, this is a great chance. Even if you decide to cancel, you still get to keep the book you picked forever. There is also a great no-hassle return policy. You can exchange any book at any time for any reason. Audiobooks are really great. I actually do listen to them every single day. If you haven't tried it, check out the link down below. You can get your free audiobook. You got nothing to lose. Next question is a pretty interesting one. Would it be possible to give a team a passive buff if one of their players leaves? And this would be based on the role of the player. So if they were playing a tank and they leave, then everybody else would get a passive damage resistance buff. If they were playing DPS, then everybody would get a passive bonus damage buff. I don't think this would work because, first of all, it's 5 versus 6, in which case you still have a very, very good chance that you're going to lose the match. So what would end up happening is, yeah, the passive buff might help you a little bit, but it's probably going to be too weak to where it's just not going to overcome not having that extra player. Or you could go the other way where it's too strong and you would actually run into a situation where it might incentivize having one person leave. So you have a tank who queues up with one of his friends or something like that, and after, you know, a minute has gone by with the match, then they just leave so that everyone else gets that passive damage resistance buff. And if it's so good, then yeah, you might end up winning that 5 versus 6 because of that. So I think it's either going to be too weak or too strong, but in either case, I just don't really see it working. Next up, why doesn't Blizzard do hero health buffs and nerfs? Well, they have changed it a couple of times in the past, but yeah, it is a very rare thing, and primarily it's because that's how Blizzard wants to balance the game. So I've kind of figured out some stuff on my own. I also have some information that's been passed on to me, where basically the way that the Overwatch devs want to balance the game is based on health. So that's why all of the DPS characters, with rare exception, have 200 hit points, because that's kind of what they're looking at. And then, you know, the tanks have a little bit more and that sort of stuff. But the idea is they want to balance around health. So if they want something to be able to take you out in one hit, then it just needs to do a little bit more than 200. Or if they want something that takes 2 hits, then they make it do 100 damage. And they have this across the board. So they basically have been trying to balance the game around that 200 hit point thing, and they just don't really want to change it. Next up, if they added a new effect like poison, how do you think it would work? Well, it would probably be just a regular damage over time, and there really wouldn't be anything too special about it. However, they could add it as a form of an anti-heal, right? So you have new status effect, which basically just applies a 20% anti-heal or a 30% anti-heal. Maybe it would change depending on the character or depending on the ability. I think that definitely could work. I've been talking about that. I do think there needs to be more anti-heal. But, I mean, if you're just talking about it in general, then it would probably just be damage over time, is usually what that ends up being. Next up, what do you think about a hero that can disguise as another hero? I see you there, Spy from TF2. I don't think it would work in Overwatch. There are some pretty big changes, even though the games are similar. There are some pretty big changes for Overwatch that just make it way more difficult. There's a lot of area effect damage. Things tend to be in a much smaller environment for Overwatch, so I just don't think it would work, and you're not really gonna fool anybody, I don't think is the thing. I mean, are you gonna disguise as someone on your team? Then I don't know if that would really do a whole lot, right? Like, they're still gonna attack you. And if you're disguising as the enemy team, I don't see it really working. Now, you could have a character, and this gets asked quite a bit, what about copying enemy player abilities and stuff like that? I think if you were to have a character like that, you would have to also take their abilities. So you have a character that's probably DPS, and then you can kind of morph into the enemy Reinhardt. And for the next 10 seconds or something, you get to use several of his abilities, or maybe one of their abilities or something like that. It would have to be more than just a cosmetic change, because just purely cosmetic, I just don't think it would do anything in Overwatch. Is Double Shield truly meta, or are people just playing a lot of Sigma because he's new? No, it is definitely in meta. It is definitely the objectively strongest comp in the game right now. And the thing is, yeah, Sigma's new and people are going to want to play him, but with Ashe and Hammond and Baptiste and several other characters, a whole bunch of other characters, when they first get added to the game, they don't just immediately go into the meta. I mean, Brigitte did about, what was it, like a month and a half, 2 months after, when people figured out that you could run goats. But for the most part, new characters aren't that, commanding of the meta. It's just that Double Barrier is that good, and that's why people use it. Next up, do you think Overwatch 2 is something that is more usable to Let's Players? Interesting question. I used to do a lot of Let's Plays on the channel, and then I just kind of switched into stuff like CSGO and Overwatch, and I really haven't done any of that. If you want to see some of my older Let's Plays, there's Minecraft, Ark Survival Evolved, and some other ones. If you go to my main channel page and scroll all the way down, you'll see the playlists for them. But for Overwatch, you really can't do Let's Plays, right? Like, there's nothing to really show. I mean, you can have competitive matches, but people are mostly just interested in seeing like top 500, very high GM matches and pro matches, right? So for the Overwatch 2 campaign mode, yeah, I think you could definitely do a series where you go through and play the full campaign. Now, are they going to want to see the same mission over and over again? Probably not. I mean, you can play it yourself and keep going through the missions, but watching the same mission again and again and again, probably not going to happen. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible you could do at least one full playthrough and slap it on the channel as like a Let's Play. What hero do you think is the most unbalanced? That's an easy question. It's Bastion. In the lower brackets, he's way too strong. In some situations, when he's behind multiple barriers, he's way too strong. In nearly all other situations, he is just objectively garbage and just not useful. So the character is just all over the place, right? And as far as like balancing, it's just, yeah, it's not very good for him. Next up, why hasn't Ashe gotten any more voice lines since the anniversary event? I actually pointed this out not too long ago as well, and I noticed that the timing for when Ashe stopped getting any sort of new voice lines was about the same time that the voice actor for Ashe made some kind of angry statements towards Blizzard. This was, I forget exactly when this happened, but I went and checked, and I mean, I can't confirm any of this. It's just my pure speculation, but it seems like some of that probably hit a nerve. And this wasn't recent stuff either. This was stuff like a while back when Blizzard laid off a bunch of people. So my guess is that there's some kind of issue between the voice actor and Blizzard, and that's probably why we haven't get anything. Do you think we'll get a new hero soon? I'm not so sure about that. I mean, we're supposed to get a new PTR later this week, and they could surprise us and just drop a new hero, but I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, it seems more like kind of wishful thinking as opposed to, oh yeah, they're definitely going to do it. But I think that there's a decent chance we'll get one either at the end of this year or maybe in the first couple months of next year. Now, they are only supposed to have one new hero before Overwatch 2, or at least that's kind of what the general idea is. Blizzard hasn't officially confirmed it, I don't believe. However, it does seem to be heavily hinted that most of the new characters that they're working on are going to be bundled with Overwatch 2. There's like 4 or 5 that are supposed to go with Overwatch 2, and so the number of characters that they're going to release before then, I don't know. But I think Hero 32, I mean, it could be anytime from now until March, would be my guess. That's going to be all the questions for this week. Thank you to everyone who submitted one. Remember, I post the question card every Saturday on the community tab of my YouTube channel. And also, don't forget to get your free audiobook using the link down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.